just so people understand what's going on tonight, is we are here to hear presentations. There will be no citizen speak to this. If you have any input on any of these projects, my suggestion is that you send an email to Mr. Rembolt for dissemination to the committee. There's no vote tonight. The vote will be on January 13th. And we are basically here to get the information from the presentations. And we will go in order as the agenda. Mr. Aberdale, I think you need a seat up front. Because this is all you, first four are you, bud. Thank you for coming. The first thing we're going to deal with is the Mason Library painting. Committee, if you have any questions, I'd like you to hold them until Mr. Aberdale is done with this project. We're going to focus on the Mason Library painting. Don't jump to something else. Stay focused, boys and girls, okay? Go ahead, Joe.
So, I think the package is, pretty much, all inclusive. We, after our step one, we did a little bit of a study, with Klein Bond looking at it to show the group here that it's more than just maintenance, it's restoration and preservation.
Excuse me for a minute. Ladies, if you want to talk outside, we don't chat in this room while the meeting's going on. I'd appreciate that. Thanks so much. Go ahead, Joe.
Here, because these are not funds that we feel we can get through the town budget, to do the required work. There was an increase in what we initially submitted.
What was the original ask, Mr. Aberdale?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
I thought it was 225.
Yeah, so what we did is we added procurement and contract administration to it. To make it a complete package again, just so
Okay,
we didn't have that money in the or won't be asking for that money in the budget.
okay.
Any questions or concerns?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Rich.
I was just wondering if the scope of this ask is more than just painting.
Oh, it is. Well, there's a lot of preservation. There's, if you see in some of the back pictures, there's some places that there was some sheetrock put outside that shouldn't have been years ago. After that, a lot of the wood, entities that will eventually get paint need to be rehabilitated. Patched and some pieces replaced.
So there's some rot, there's
There's a lot of rot.
damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the title just throws us off initially that it's just a painting project, but
Well, I
it's
think
not,
that's-
it's more than that.
It is, and that's kind of why I had Klein Bond do a little bit of an independent evaluation, so you can see the depth of some of the work that needs to be done, because originally when it was presented to it, it was observed that it was more of a painting project, it's more than that.
Mr. Aberdale, is there an ability within the scope of the work to phase it or not?
What?
Phase it,
Do it in phases.
do it in phases.
Oh, you can, but what you have to do is, you'll incur the procurement costs and the contract administration every time you do it,
Okay,
which is significant.
I understand that. I'm just trying to, because people are always lobbing darts saying, well, why don't you do it in pieces? Well, there's a reason.
So the intention, if this is funded, we are working on, the clamshell.
Yeah.
Sconces, and a path forward for that. If this is funded, we will probably couple them all together. Into one project to try to get more value for a dollar, and then if we don't spend all the money, obviously they'll come back to you.
Okay,
The sconces may not be a good fit for the package because it's kind of it's metal work. And it's
Right.
So we're still kind of hemming and hawing that one back and forth.
okay. Kate,
Me or?
no, Kate.
Oh, I lost it.
Well, when you get it back, send a message. Martha?
Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't you bring this to us last year and we deferred because we were doing the clamshell and sconces?
What was that?
Did you bring this request last year and we said we can't do it this year when the clamshell and the sconces were?
No, you awarded monies for the clamshell.
Well, I know, but I thought you had brought this too.
Oh, no, I
No,
didn't.
no, no.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure.
You funded the stairs. which
Oh,
we have,
okay,
you know,
yeah.
Kate?
I found it. Thank you.
Okay.
Do we have for the Mason Library an overall assessment of the health of the building?
We do.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And
So we have, a building assessment for 5 buildings in town currently, which have basically immediate needs of $1.8 million. We're pecking away at it slowly. You know, we put things in line for electricians and things like that to tackle some of this. Great progress at Mason. We have a building management system in place, which was partially funded by grants. So we're clearly making progress. So simple answer to your question is yes, we have 3 more buildings that are just about done. They're in draft phase. So we will have a spreadsheet of all the work that needs to be done. And then we'll prioritize it, and then we'll bring an electrician in. If we got $20,000 for electrician, we'll do $20,000 off the top of the list.
are there other issues at the Mason that are high on your list?
Not on the exterior.
Okay.
Jeremy,
No, I'm okay.
you're okay? That's important. Anybody else, any concerns or issues or questions from Mr. Aberdale in reference to the painting of the exterior of the Mason Public Library? Mr. Guyler?
If we're only able to fund partially, that can still be rolled into the clamshell job that you're doing, like if,
Yeah, if you fund part of it, we may have to cut back the scope of the work.
right, but you could decide then which aspect of the building to work on first, the one that's most needed, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I need.
Any more questions or concerns in reference to the exterior painting? Marvelous. We'll move to the next, which is also the town cemetery, Elmwood Cemetery monuments.
So this application and the next 2 are basically cemetery applications for, again, because we don't necessarily have the budget money. But we talk about cemeteries quickly. There's 2 funds that the cemetery commission has. It's perpetual care and lot sales. Perpetual care, we can only use the interest that all the principal in that account cannot be touched. And with town meeting vote, we can use the interest, and we earn about $1,100 interest a year. Lot sales, when we sell graves, it gets split between the 2 of them to some proportion. The lot sales obviously is building, and the value might be $270 something thousand in that account. We do use it occasionally with town meeting approval to fund a mower. You know, maybe there's some work that needs to be done on cemetery. All the mowing and maintenance is done out of the town operating budget.
So the cemetery maintenance or landscaping is done by the town's operating budget. It's not
It is.
taken out of cemetery fund. Okay.
And I urge, you know, we have dipped into it. The cemetery commission has used the money to actually, I think, help fund the operating budget last year a little bit.
This year,
This year, yeah, this year they actually bought a truck for us. They paid for mowers in the past, and it's an okay thing to do, but what we do is we're dipping into that fund that is really, when we run out of space, we need to buy a piece of property. We kind of want that money somewhat available. We do have some longevity in our cemeteries. Housatonic green lawn is the tightest. But you might.
When you say Titus, can you tell me what that means? You mean you don't got so much space to put people in?
Exactly.
Thank you. Okay.
Exactly. And the commission recognizes that, you know, and at some point that one will probably be the first one we need to purchase some land for.
Mhm.
The commissioners all recognizing that with one of our recent meetings, we voted on, or they voted on, the number of, bodies or cremation that can be put into a grave.
Mhm.
So when you sell a grave, you can put 1 full burial, and in the past, there was really not a limit, but it was kind of an unwritten rule of thumb of only 2 cremations. We can do up to 8 and still fit them comfortably. So we're trying to cover and increase our longevity of our cemeteries that way too.
Okay.
So that just so you understand the funding, that'll apply to all of these, which try not to deplete lot sales. The commission has asked questions, with Mark when he was here. We haven't revisited it with Liz. But the intentions are to, why do we want to keep perpetual care? Perpetual care is supposed to take care of the care of the property of the cemetery, which we take out of the operating budget. So there, we really have money there that's earning 0.5% interest when it can probably be put into lot sales or used by the town or another method. So those questions will be asked, and hopefully in the future, we'll know that that money may or may not be available.
Who and how would the procedural policies change in reference to what you've just talked about? How does that get facilitated?
Well, I think they're town council questions to start with. And if it can be done, if you can close out a perpetual care account or put minimal dollars in it, then it would be probably presented at the town meeting. that
Okay.
town will vote.
So it's town council and then it'll have to go on the warrant.
Yeah, we just gotta do the
Okay.
homework to make sure, to see if it is doable.
Right, I
It's just a
understand.
poor investment, if, of our money.
0.5% is not good. Do you have a question?
Do you know what that account has in it? We were told.
I'll throw some numbers, but I don't know how accurate they are. I think the perpetual care is around $400,000 in there. And I wanna say lot sales is 270s.
Wow.
But again, take that with a grain of salt. It's been a while since I looked at it. And what we do is
Yes.
when we sell a plot, a small portion goes into perpetual care and a larger portion that goes into lot sales.
I have a problem with that. If you're selling a lot and you put it in perpetual care, but you don't use the perpetual care money to do perpetual care and we're paying for it out of the town budget, it seems like we're putting it in a corner that the mouse won't find the cheese.
Well, the interest, the portion that you could spend in perpetual care is $1,100-1,200 a year. That you're making on your principal.
Which
It's
is
nowhere
nothing.
near enough to mow the cemeteries.
No, I understand. But that's what I'm saying is maybe the whole structure of that situation needs to be reviewed and looked at.
And that's why we want to have, the town manager talk to town council, see if that could be closed.
Okay,
And move it to a more useful, because we are taking care of it out of the town budget.
really?
Are any of the post fixes safety concerns, or are they all?
This is,
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet,
this
huh?
is just the calling down monuments. The fences are next.
So
You're ahead of yourself, Mr. Geiler, sir.
Okay, then I will,
You'll hold that question? It's okay.
I guess I can ask the question then. Are any of the broken monuments of a safety concern, or are they all of visual preservation?
No, they can be, they pose trip hazard concerns, the ones that are leaning could fall over on somebody, a kid or something like that. The money that we're asking for will not take care of everything in Elmwood, it'll take care of about half of it. Again, we got to go out to bid and, the progress on how much they got done will determine, the bid will determine how many we can go. But obviously, we would start with the worst ones, if you look in one of the future cemeteries is. The Water Street Cemetery, if you look at it by Pizza Hut, Pizza House and you look down there, you see some of the taller ones that are leaning. And like, if those were to fall on someone, it would really hurt.
Yeah.
So the potential exists, they become a maintenance issue mowing around them and. They're in the way, you pick them up and move them, where do you bring them, handling them and things like that.
But whatever we were able to fund, you would select the ones that were most
Yeah.
urgent.
Yeah, yep. So we would probably look at it from the way you're saying. Address the safety concerns, one, if there's leaning ones versus one that's already toppled. The toppled one's not gonna hurt anyone, but the leaning one could, so we would somehow turn around and prioritize them. And the thought would be is as long as there's some funding available, we would try to do this a little bit year after year. Because, we have the issues in a lot of our cemeteries.
So this would be like a standing request.
If we're successful, yeah.
Okay, Kate,
My question is, if you could just go over that again in terms of when someone buys a plot at a town-owned cemetery, it is part of that transaction the town providing ongoing care for the stone?
The
No.
monument is technically the family's, or,
Okay,
um,
so
The-
these ones that are in this thing, they're like, there's no one, no heirs or someone.
they've been in disrepair for a lot of years. We had this discussion, and we probably will again when we get to the Brown Mausoleum. The stipulation, you know, the family's responsible for the monument. Obviously, the newer monuments that have issues, the families can be notified and taken care of. Trying to find some of these families of these older monuments, and it took the historic commission months.
Yeah.
To find, so we would spend as much money trying to search this out with town staff than it would to fix it.
In the meantime, somebody has to take care of it. Okay.
Martha?
Well, I walk around Elmwood and there are a lot of monuments toppled over. And my gut says, this is so disrespectful to walk in a cemetery and see the monuments falling all
Yeah.
over the place. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Mr. Geiler?
Although I would also say that visiting the old country. My husband is from Scotland, and visiting the graves in Scotland, the public absolutely refuses for any broken or toppled or falling down or monuments with huge holes in it to move anything because they might disturb the remains. So there are different ways for people to look at those
Yeah.
as just the passage of time and that all things are ephemeral. So I'm just saying that's possible to look at it in that particular way as well.
So
Well,
if I may on that, but again, history may have done it different, but in the current times and even now in the recent past. Where the monument is, there are no remains where the monument is.
It's next to remains.
That's right, there's a window of area that is not used for burials.
Right.
I can't speak for the old ones.
it sort of reminds me of when you have a septic system put in, there's supposedly a map drawn of the septic system, but if you go back 40 years and try to find the map, it doesn't match up where the septic system is, so things have moved. Any other comments or concerns about this particular? Great. Thank you, Joe. Now you want to talk about the fences and the gates at Water Street and Mahawi.
So, maybe the best way is if we just kind of peek at, some of the pictures here. It kind of outlines the Water Street Cemetery. It would be really nice to preserve the marble and the wrought iron as much as we can. Water Street, there's a couple broken stones and we have wrought iron that could probably be modified to fix the pieces that are in jeopardy there. They still make these, they're very expensive, so we could clean up Water Street. Over at Mahawi, there's a substantial amount of damage, and to recondition or replace the ones along Main Street, South Main Street, would be rather expensive. And as you've seen where we put the wall in, at South Main Street, we actually put a wrought iron style looking fence there. The cemetery commission would like to extend that, like the length of Main Street, and then use those parts to recondition along Silver Street. And then there will be extras, so we'll store them up at the transfer station, for use. And then, on Mahawi, as you go down Silver Street a ways, the marble turns into a wrought iron fence that's quite disrepair in some areas, especially around the entrance gate down on Silver Street near the Brown Mausoleum. So we would just take those out, have a fabricator refabricate them and put them there.
Martha?
So, does this fencing meet the historic restoration code that says it has to be a certain way when you use money for historic preservation? Will these fences meet that criteria?
So is your question that what we're doing meet the requirements of historic preservation?
Yes.
Yes and no.
Well, I am sure it meets the requirement to protect the cemetery,
Yeah,
but I'm not sure the fencing
Yeah.
meets the requirement for historic preservation with our funds. I don't know.
Well,
What do you think, Chris?
by
I wanna-
definition, if you're using the historic rails and refurbishing them,
It's
Well, that
historic
should
preservation.
be buying some more fencing, right?
Yeah,
yeah, that would be typical to match.
right. So, we could clearly turn around and not continue with, the wrought iron on South Main Street and purchase some more marble, and I'll probably ask for $500,000.
Oh,
Martha, shush.
It was that's why the commissioners thought we would try to go that way. Keep one face looking historic and one face, upgrade it, so it doesn't. But that's pretty much the
Okay,
gist of that.
Kate?
I think, and someone from the historical commission could correct me if I'm wrong, but it is not having the support of the historical commission is what makes this project eligible for funding here, but it is not a historic listed property that must be restored in a fashion keeping with it.
I believe Mahawi is on a national register, Water Street is not. And I think that's what we did in between step one and step two. We went to the historic commission and got them to acknowledge the historical relevance of Water Street and Elwood.
All historic preservation work has to follow the guidelines of the Secretary of the Interior. Whether it's listed or not. All historic preservation work funded through CPA must meet guidelines.
Okay, then
Even if they're not part of the club.
we might need some more info about the fences then.
Well, exactly what are you looking at, Kate? What type of, I mean, if it's,
Well, I'm not I don't work for the Secretary of the Interior, but
neither do I.
I don't know if taking out marble and wrought iron things and replacing it with this more modern looking thing meets the standard. I
think you heard Joe say that.
Yeah.
Part of it would be new.
Yeah.
Obviously, that would be standards, but what they're looking to do is reuse the old. in
On
the-
Silver
Refurbish it.
Street.
Yeah,
But the wrought iron fence, like you see by the wall that we did.
Yes.
Extend that wrought iron, so, because if you look at it, there's some pretty good gaps.
Yeah.
In that.
Go, Rich.
So first question, were there any marble posts in place when you had to do that large project
wasn't.
and did you save any of them?
We did.
Okay, so
There were
some,
some
some of them
there
are
were some
available.
broken ones, and I think one or two good ones. The marble posts over at Mahawi are different than the marble posts over at Water Street.
But still, you're talking about using the marble posts from the Hayward over at Water Street.
No. The request here, if you look through the estimate, not that I would want you to dive through that, but over at Water Street, we're gonna purchase matching ones for the 2 or 3 that we need over there.
So where are we reusing the marble posts from?
The marble posts that come out of the South Main Street facing of Mahawi will be used on Silver Street facing of Mahawi.
Silver Street facing of the same cemetery.
Right.
yeah.
I
Correct.
see.
And then the extras preserved.
Okay, and so the second question is any part of this a safety concern or is it all a visual historical concern?
I don't really think there's much of a safety issue. That's kind of why we put the wrought iron fence where the wall was for safety reasons. There's the fencing that's over there now doesn't really meet standards for safety.
At least it's a barrier.
It's a barrier, right? And, we attend a few Mass Cemetery Commission meetings, and people are quite shocked that a lot of our cemeteries are not completely fenced. I think they know once a lot of the cities and stuff, they're completely fenced and gated and locked at after hours, and ours become somewhat recreation areas at times. So, I'm not saying we have to do that, but it will create the barrier.
Any other questions, concerns, or issues? All right. Last but not least, the brown comes to haunt me every year.
So when I originally filled out step one, you have all these fancy boxes to check and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Historic preservation, Brown Mausoleum, it's historic preservation. Brown Mausoleum, the Historic Commission did research that, saying there are no heirs left of Colonel Brown's family or, so basically, we could take it down. And plant what is in there in the ground. Or we turn around and resurrect the roof and preserve it. So that's when we came to you before, you put a condition on it, make sure there's no errors. And you gave us half the money. Well, half the money back then of $40,000, you gave us 20. It's more than that now. And again, we won't be able to fund it out of the town budget with all the other priorities. So it is a historic preservation. We would do is put a slate roof back on it, everything like that, to bring it back up to, good usable condition. The other benefits to this, as it becomes town property, there is space in that mausoleum for bodies or cremations. We also have the cemetery commission, the Weatherby Mausoleum, Steve, I think the town owns that one, and there's a little space in there. Right now, there are in excess of 58 unclaimed remains in the funeral homes in Great Barrington that don't have a nice place to be. So the thought would be is if we preserve this mausoleum, fix the lock so it works properly, we could give a home and a proper service to putting those remains in a safe place.
And these remains are cremains.
They are.
No. Remains is boxed out. Cremains have been cremated.
These are cremains.
Okay, that's what I'm looking at.
No, the bodies are still.
You know, because it's a space issue.
Then some of them go back quite a.
Well, I've
Yeah.
been there, done that.
And the
Thanks,
cemetery
Mimi.
commission does, we have, a garden to spread ashes if people so choose in Elmwood. There we do, occasionally have someone that wants to have a plot and can't afford it, so the cemetery commissioners help them out.
Okay.
So this would just, take these out of the funeral homes, have a service and put them in there, categorize them, so we all know who's where.
Okay. Mr. Geiler.
So. If, is there an option to do something less expensive than a slate roof?
There
Something
is.
that might look like a slate roof, but not be made of a slate?
There is, but I think we wouldn't be really preserving the historic.
Well, I mean, I think that if we thought about materials that might be appropriate looking,
Mhm.
but don't have to be the actual historic material, I don't think that anything prevents us from using that in this particular, if the other option would be to tear it down, we're under no obligation to keep. I mean, I don't think using material that will look like slate would be disrespectful.
Yeah.
Or make it unusable, but it would certainly be a lot less than $100,000
Yeah.
for the roof of a mausoleum.
So there is different grades of slate, and different cuts of slate. This slate that we're using, I forget the name of it, but it's not a step down, it's a more economical slate product. It's not like the little pieces of slate.
But it's
that were-
still 100,000.
Right, so what I did is I worked with Vermont, I think it's Vermont Slate, a manufacturer of slate products, and we went through the different things, and I said, look, I gotta make this thing look like it looks now type of thing. We can, and I gave them some of the sizes, they said, we can cut you that exact slate and put it on, but, you're talking, $3,000 or $4,000 per square of material, which is 100 square feet. With this other product, you're around $2,000
So
per square.
are you then saying there are no other products that are modern products which might be able to be used to keep the water from getting into this particular mausoleum?
We could clearly put an asphalt roof on it with a.
Well,
slate look to
there
it.
are, well,
But I don't
I'm
think
not
that's my
saying,
call, I'd have to
I'm not
start.
saying that, I'm not saying let's do something that looks garish. But I'm just saying that in this day and age, there are a lot of materials that come close to
Yep.
an historic look. And we're not talking about a building that's housing people anymore. We're talking about a part of a cemetery that, I mean, we first talked about this roof several years back. You did something that, kept the elements from coming in. That was a good step. But if the commission wants to turn it into something where they could sell columbaria spaces or something like that, that, you know, you're looking at it as a way to increase the number of people who are putting money into the cemetery. Because those kinds of things, I've been in several projects in churches and seen several projects with family members in cemeteries where this is turned into a positive
Mhm.
for the cemetery if you own it. I'm just saying all those things.
I'm sure
I would
there's,
like to be-
I'm sure there's different things out there. You know, I can research it, I can, you know, present it to the historic commission, see if they'll accept it. Those aren't really my calls. You do bring up a good point about putting people in, that's why I was talking about checking boxes, it's like, this could almost be considered affordable housing.
Oh, that's a stretch. I like it, but it's a stretch. I know in the committee, I got you. I know where we are. We got Pat, we got Steve, and we've got Martha. So is this done right now?
No, I'm not telling
Well, you can, what do you mean?
me.
Okay.
I just have a question.
Go ahead, Pat.
Looking at the three projects, could you help us prioritize?
I would probably do the Elmwood monuments as one, and Steve's on the commission, he can feel free to chime in here too.
He's next.
I would do the Elmwood monuments as the first one. Because it does pose a safety issue as well as, you know, disrespect issue. The Brown Mausoleum probably second. Only because there's, you know, one, we would be able to preserve it, because right now no water's getting in, but there's a chance water could get in, it could continue to deteriorate it. The fencing, it's not a mayday, I mean, it can be done, so if you need it.
Steve,
Yeah, it's more of a process for Chris. Chris, when we talk about historic preservation, what's the limit? Now, if we preserve it, but it's not historically preserved, I mean, Rich is trying to say, and it would look like it. Is there a point where we can't fund it because it's not historic?
Yes, so in this case, you could require the applicant to rely on an architect with experience in historic preservation, or possibly the historical commission to review the materials like Joe suggested. Review that against the rather lengthy guidelines for historic preservation published by the Secretary of Interior. Any historic preservation work funded by this committee with CPA must meet those guidelines. Whether it's restoration or preservation, sometimes you can replace things with new materials that look alike, sometimes you can't. So there are a lot of rules and guidelines for how that's done. It's really a case by case basis. Other applicants that have come before this committee have had architects working for them or builders who are experienced in this field, and they can certify that what they're doing, and in fact, that's something that we have them do when they provide reports and billing. And, you know, an architect will sign off at the end that it's all been done, trolley shelter, for example. So that's very important. You know, you can't just, if asphalt is not acceptable there, as judged by an architect or the historical commission, for example, then you may not fund it.
Okay, thank you.
any other comments, concerns, or issues from this committee on this? Mr. Aberdeen, I believe you're done.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Who's presenting? For the library? Committee, what I'd like to do is I'd like to give them, I'm gonna say 15 minutes of uninterrupted. I don't want to stop and start them. I want to give them that ability to present. And then we're gonna stop and see if the committee has any questions based on that. Okay?
Okay.
And who are you, ma'am?
Okay, my name is Pam Sandler. I'm a member of the Ramsdale Building Committee. I'm a local architect, who lives in Great Barrington. I'd like to introduce the rest of my group right now. Ruby Chang is here. She's behind me. She is a library trustee and a chairperson for the Ramsdale Building Committee. To my right is Deepa Venkat, CHA Solutions. She is our owner's project manager. Two other people are our architects, from Perry D. Rogers, Mark Freeman and Michael Beltoil.
Can we have an access to the slides?
Who do you need to see?
Their slides?
Yeah, who do you need? Who, somebody needs.
Michael would be the panelist.
Michael.
Thank you.
Because he's raised his hand.
Thank you.
That's what I needed to know. I gotta show you.
Okay.
Great, thank you, thank you. I've lived in the Berkshires for over 40 years. I'm a local architect, a member of the Stockbridge Historic Preservation Commission, and someone with a deep, abiding passion for historic preservation in this community. I raised my 3 children here. This place matters to me. I care deeply about the Ramsdale Library and its future. When I first joined the building committee, I'll admit I was really skeptical. I was focused on preservation and concerned about change. But through this process, I came to understand, truly understand, the essential role that libraries now play as community spaces. Modern libraries are not just repositories for books. They are places of connection, learning, and belonging. That is what we are striving to create in Housatonic. We need to act now. The Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners has pledged to move forward, but success depends on community support. This project will only happen if we stand behind it together. This effort presents a rare and powerful opportunity to preserve one of the very few buildings in Great Barrington listed on the National Register of Historic Places. While thoughtfully adapting it for contemporary use, we must restore it, adapt it, and ensure that it remains a vibrant source of pride for our community and for generations to come. So this slide shows the exterior, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the existing conditions, which are not in the greatest shape. You can see the bottom, easier just to state it here. You can see that it's not even on the joints where it's gone. So it's not just repointing, it's replacing bricks. So probably some horrible stressor cracked right through here. Broken single pane glass, not very energy efficient in the building. Horrible alligatoring and rot in all the windows that you see. So basically all the windows have to be replaced, and the windows are breathtakingly beautiful. They're curved up in here. The roof, we have some leaking going on. The flashing is gone. All this stuff up in here.
Michael, can you go next slide, please?
So these slides show the inaccessible aisles, in, where the books are. The bathroom was one of my favorite spots. I thought about a mother walking in there with a stroller. Caregiver, she can't get in the bathroom. Someone with a walker, wheelchair, can't get in the bathroom. Besides the fact, when you're sitting on the toilet, the plumbing is above you on the ground because the floor has lowered, it's this terrazzo, and it's in horrible, horrible condition. This is the upstairs space, which is used for storage for the historical commission. And it is not appropriate for these precious documents to be in an environment that's not controlled, environmentally controlled. So that really needs to be looked at. As part of that, also, this space was a vibrant space in this community. It's wonderful to talk to some of the elderly Houston residents who used to go up there and use the stage and kind of hang up there for community activities. This is the breathtakingly beautiful stair that goes from the first to the second floor. There are rules when it comes to historic preservation, what we're allowed to do, not do, and it's a play in terms of working with the commission and working with the building inspector. The one thing we would do probably immediately is put a rail at least on one side that would be continuous. Again, water damage, plaster gone, mold, things like that, which, you know, in essence are gonna eventually destroy the building. We have no air conditioning. We don't have any modern heating, ventilating, air conditioning systems. We don't have spaces that are accessible in terms of handicap access at all. To name a few.
Great. Thank you, Pam, and thank you all for having us. My name is Michael Belfield. I'm from Perry Dean Rogers, the architects working on the project, and we're delighted to be working on this project and be with you all. Just wanted to quickly talk about some of the community input and support that's happened over the years. So the library team has had 4 community meetings, including one that we had just last week, where we had, as Pam alluded to, we had people who came in whose relatives went to preschool in the Great Hall upstairs. As well as, you know, literal babe in arms. So it was a really great cross section and a wonderful event. The building committee has had 28 public meetings. We've done surveys and poster sessions, and that's all led to the program, which is, you know, what we think of as the spaces and services that the renovated library will offer, being driven by that process. Ramsell is a gem of a building. It is, despite some of the current conditions, it is a real exquisite example of neoclassical Beaux-Arts design. And what we are looking to do in this project is to provide to reinvigorate it as a focal point, not just for Housatonic, but for all of Great Barrington, to preserve and showcase the historic building and provide the amenities, and services of a 21st century library. Excuse me. I'm not going to get into this whole list right now. We'll talk about it in the next few slides, but one of the driving things that we heard from the community and that we know is really critical is to complement rather than duplicate spaces, services, and programs that are offered at Mason. So that's something we'll look at in the next slides as we go through the plans. So these next 3 slides are just looking at the floor plans, and I should mention that this is a very, very early preliminary conceptual design that's being presented for the state grant program that we'll talk about in a little bit. So there's a long time for this to change and to work out the design and finalize it with more additional community input. But I just wanted to explain a few things on the slides here. You see there's 2 shades of gray. Here there's this darker gray and the lighter gray, and that will be true across all of these 3 drawings. So the darker gray is the existing building existing walls, and the lighter gray are new walls. And just to orient everyone, the bottom that we're looking at here is south, so that's Main Street. To the bottom, in the hill with the woods is to the north. So at the lower level here, what we're really looking at is making this floor accessible. So an elevator, proper egress stairs, and then providing climate controlled storage. But this is really all back of house space here for staff at the lower level. Moving up to the main level, you can see again here, I'll use my cursor. This is roughly the line between the existing building and the renovation. And what we're looking at here, and what we're coming to the CPC for is really about the historic preservation component. So on the main level, we're looking at the restored vestibule and stairs that Pam talked about. Also restoring the rotunda and reading rooms to their original grandeur and functions. Providing a new fully accessible vestibule, which will be at grade over here. So someone in a wheelchair or with a stroller doesn't have to go up a ramp outdoors. They can come right in and then navigate up via the elevator or this half flight of stairs here. And that will bring them. Oh, I'm sorry.
Not you, Michael.
Chris?
And the lights be turned down so we can see the screen
Why?
better.
Then square yourself up. It'd be a lot, you can see a lot better if you're looking from straight on as opposed to an
The
out.
light that, there's no contrast on the screen.
Well, people are trying to take notes.
We can turn half the lights off. Yeah.
So as you come in here, there's a central. Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. There's a central gallery space that links the historic building with the addition and creates a separation. So we have a light touch on the historic building that leads to a community porch, fully accessible restrooms. There's an inviting teen space, and an enlarged children's room, which also has something that's increasingly common in libraries called the sensory or comfort room. This is a calming space that can be used as a common space for children. It can be used for nursing infants. It can be used for family telehealth meetings. There's also a youth program room for events, both for library programs for children as well as teens that can be used at different times of the day. So we're really looking for flexibility here. One of the really key critical things here too is what you see dashed in orange here is called an after hours zone. So the idea is that the library will not just serve for the library functions. It will be open, particularly the Great Hall on the second floor that we'll look at in a minute, after hours for community events and performances. So as I mentioned, the Great Hall here is a space that we looked at in one of the photos previously. Historically has been used as a community performance and event space. This could be, and we're looking to restore it to that. Right now, this is not open to the public because it is not accessible. So by adding the stairs and the elevator, this will be able to reopen and reuse this historic space for its original purpose for performances, events, community meetings such as this one. Remote work, workshop, library programs, and this will have seating for up to 100, and as I mentioned, be available after hours. And we'll also provide fully accessible stacks and reading and study spaces, as well as fully accessible restrooms. And with that, I'll turn it over to Deepa.
Again, my name is Deepa Venkat. I am from the Owners Project Management Company. My background is in architecture and I am on my town's planning board. So the reason for that background is the process of MDLC is kind of very interesting and very different from our typical projects that we've done. MDLC, what they call is concept design, feasibility studies, what the phase that we are all in right now. They want the towns to focus primarily on what the community needs are. This is more, so in typical design world, you have schematic design, you have design development and construction documents. Schematic design is when you understand as a designer what the requirements of the client is. This particular step in MDLC is one step even ahead of that schematic design. So it is absolutely a program collection phase. They want to make sure that whatever library has right now, that number of collections, the spaces, the design kind of caters to what should be actually the size for a small library of this size. That's all this exercise for this particular phase is going to be. We are not going beyond that point. So our December deadline is absolutely just program. What was the grant application based on? What is the program going to be? What you're seeing here is kind of some of the eligible costs. MBLC also, this is only for reference. MBLC also, because it's a program phase, we can get very limited input from the community in this phase because it's a very fast track phase. They prohibit the design team or the building committee to go into numbers at this point because you only have program to begin with. You don't have construction costs, you don't have the engineering part of the project. So it is like, let's see, what program spaces do you need? Do you need teen space? Do you need children's? Do you need accessibility? That's all that focuses. But this particular estimated eligible cost is kind of a guideline that MBLC kind of shares. We are not yet there to kind of say which line Ramsdale will fall in, but this was just to give you an idea that this would be the chart that once we get approved, the grant gets approved, we get off the waiting list. We will kind of fall into some of those categories. On the right-hand side, you see ineligible costs. MBLC also does not fund furniture, does not fund parking spaces, does not fund temporary quarters, municipal bonding, and so on and so forth. So we will get to this particular cost, detailed cost, once Ramsdale gets off the waiting list. So every year, I believe 200 libraries apply for this grant. And I think there are 18 libraries that get chosen, in three different categories, that's small, medium, and large. And then you have waiting lists for every category. Ramsdale is on the waiting list right now. So once the top 3 get approved funding, that will be in spring of 2026. And if any of them fail to get local funding, then Ramsdale will move up the chart and then we can go on to the actual design of the building. And I think we have another slide where we could look at the timeline of what Ramsdale is. We have some quick cost estimates primarily for the historic preservation of the project. There are some, as you saw, some of the images in the earlier slides, the windows, the exterior masonry definitely needs a lot of kind of support at this point. There's interior restoration work. This is kind of just the tip of the iceberg because since we haven't gotten into the details of the design development drawings, this was a very, very preliminary cost estimates that we wanted to present to you to tell you that this probably with all these line items, accessibility is a huge one here. And I think we are saying it kind of adds up to that 1.9 million. Again, there's trade costs and then there's obviously contractor overhead profit when you look at construction of a project. And I think our ask for this particular CPC grant is 1.5. Anything else, Michael, that I'm missing here?
No, sorry, Deepa. I think that's great.
Okay. This one is a timeline, a big picture of where we are today. So 2025, December 31st, the grant application program will be submitted online. MBLC, that's Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners, will do an independent review of this design to make sure the application that was submitted back in 2024 and the program that's been submitted December matches. And if there are kind of no discrepancy, they want to make sure whatever you submitted for the grant is what you are submitting right now. But then Ramsdale will not take up Ramsdale application till one of the other libraries drop off in this category because we are on the waiting list. So the earliest, if at all, we will hear would be May, June of 2026, after they've reviewed all those applications that are eligible for funding. That's when will be the earliest. Then the next phase is they will tell you what your eligibility would be for the grant, for the renovation for this project. There will be a need factor depending on the community. That math will come to us when we get off that wait list. They will give you, I think, minimum 6 months, I think, to make sure you have local funding and you get your town to support the project. So you will have to go in front of the town for your annual elections, special town meeting. And then does the design development phase actually start. So on this, you're seeing earliest, if at all, we get your town voting in November. The earliest you can start designing this project would be December of 2026. That's the earliest. I don't think MDLC is foreseeing that to happen. It may get pushed out. Typically our design drawings are a 1-year phase, 12 to 14 months. And then it goes on to bidding and then construction. So, and construction end date is obviously almost like 2030. And during this journey from spring 2026 or June 2026, when we get off the list, we are going to have a lot of milestones where we will come in front of the town. We'll definitely have a lot of community input during this process, because the design that's getting submitted next week will not be the final one. It is just a rough draft, if you will, if it makes sense. It is only telling you if we said we need 300 square feet for our teens, you're seeing a block of 300 square feet. That's what this is going to be. Accessibility is going to be a huge one when they rate these designs. So I think that's what the focus has been, to make sure every space in the building has accessibility. Everybody has equal opportunity to experience that building. And with this being a historic preservation building, definitely the importance of making sure that you're not disturbing that part of the building with minimal kind of disturbance with the addition will also be the focus as they rate their application.
Hold on, everybody's gonna get a shot here, okay, to ask questions.
One more thing.
You have 3 minutes.
Okay.
Finish it up. There you go.
Okay, we have an important opportunity before us. CPC funds are essential to moving this project forward. I am a Great Barrington resident. As a community member, I've seen firsthand how delays can drive up costs. We all experience this with Monument High School. I saw it for at least 20 years. Taking action now is responsible in the forward-thinking choice. This project aligns strongly with community preservation plan, is rooted in community leadership, delivers clear public benefit, and enhances historic preservation, accessibility, and sustainability. Hope you join us in supporting a vision for Ramsdale Library, already recognized on the National Historic Register, to serve as a vibrant community center for Housatonic and Great Barrington. Together, we can preserve a historic resource while creating a more inclusive and engaging space for our town. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Steve?
So I have a few questions to ask. Really just from my understanding, it's gonna be interpreted whether I'm for or against this. I'm still trying to make up my mind. So as I understand it, from what you said, the costs, we're in the first phase, costs haven't been determined yet. So someone could tell me, is it premature to ask the CPC for money before you know what this building is gonna cost? I mean, even the renovation that you showed was 1.9 million. That's not even, that's a guesstimate, and I understand that you were honest about that. Should this really wait another year before you have a true cost on the building?
I can take that. I think the committee wants to be proactive. Truthfully, yes, we are a little ahead in coming in front of CPC, but I think just from the committee's feeling that once we get off that waiting list in June, we have a very short window to get running. escalation is obviously all in our minds, but it's just that the short window we cannot afford to miss. And I think that's why the committee has been proactive to come in front of you to ask at this point.
Thank you. So if I understand it correctly, and plans are Pam's thing, not mine, so I'll ask, the building is gonna double in size, more or less. Is that fit in the character of the neighborhood? Do we have a parking plan? Do we need a building that size?
So I'd have to say, I was right where you are,
Yeah.
okay? And but then we talked about what the community needed and realized they wanted all these, they wanted it more as a community building, and that's what libraries have become. We looked at many different plans, to really try to shrink it up from the street. You won't see that much of the new building. I was very strong about that. It's so needed in the community. Basically, people can't use it. You can't even go on the second floor of the building right now. So, it's less expensive to build the elevator, not in the existing building. So from all the community input, we need a building this size.
So probably a little naive question, but again, since you don't have costs,
Mhm.
if we renovated, did a full renovation of Ramsdale, no addition,
Mhm.
do we have any idea whether that would be less expensive to the town? In other words, no state money. I know we wouldn't qualify for state money. Understand how that works. Than to do the doubling in size. And we would still get a lot more than we have now because we'd get the second floor, which we don't have right now.
Right, but you'd have to add an elevator.
Yeah, I understand.
You'd have to, have, so it's not, you can't renovate, I can't put 4 handicap. I can't put accessible bathrooms in that existing building. I've got no footprint for it. Okay, so there are things I cannot do to that, existing building. So it's gotta get bigger.
But does it have to get double the size? I'm more worried about the price or not even worried. I'm just curious about the price. Like, could you renovate it even with a small addition to meet the bathrooms and elevator? Would that be, and you may not know the answer now. Would that be any less expensive?
I don't have that
Yeah,
answer. I
okay.
know they've looked into, renovation costs, and the problem was we had to fully bring it up to, 520,
Yeah.
Massachusetts Building Code Standard, 780 CMR, 520.
Okay, I've got a couple of people. Ruby, I'll get to you in a minute.
One more question.
Right, but the committee gets first whack here, okay? Go ahead.
I have just one more. So the MBLC grant doesn't cover historic renovation, is that?
So they don't categorize that way. It's only a percentage of the total cost of the project. So they are not going to pick and choose. What portion they're not covering. They have very clear list of what they will not be covering, for
Right.
example, parking, unfortunately. So parking, we didn't take up parking studies because for this particular site, because of all the topography that's there, it needed a lot more additional research and kind of working towards that. So we did take up parking primarily in this phase, even though we feel like, I think the committee very strongly felt having accessible parking near the new entrance would be really beneficial to the community. But we could not spend that time, unfortunately, at this phase, because it felt like it needed a lot more collaboration with the town, a lot more people to really work with. And so that's an example of why, so MBLC only covers it's a percentage. If you say this is a $100 project, they will say a percentage of what this will be, and that calculation we will know come June.
So now I understand, you picked the historic because it qualified for
Correct,
CP.
exactly,
See, they would cover a portion of that,
exactly.
but, okay, now.
So
I
that
understand.
number, that 1.9 is nothing to do with the total project cost. It is only for presenting it to CPC this evening.
Also, in our town zoning bylaws, we are not required to put parking there.
For this project.
Yeah, no, and I understand.
I'm just saying.
More concerned about the neighborhood.
No,
that-
I totally understand the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Pat Sharp, then you.
This is a stupid question perhaps, but when you talk about getting off the waiting list, is that inevitable? Will we at some point get off the waiting list, or does a whole new rack, people apply and the waiting list goes away.
No, if we were to go through the process, we are first on the waiting list. So if this round of grant happens for the folks that are already funded, we will get on, I think 2028 is when the whole thing will get pushed to 2028. So the design development drawings that I showed in 2027 will get pushed to 2028 if we don't get off the waiting list. But it's not like the rest of folks join the queue. It's kind of, you will get the priority because we are the top first on the waiting list.
So at some point, the town that's first on the waiting list will become eligible.
Correct.
Martha,
Concerned, I'm looking at a long timeline here. We're talking in 2026, then we're talking design next, then we're talking construction. If you've done projects like this before, how much more expensive does it get? We're looking at costs right now. The Brown Mausoleum doubled practically. And if we're talking about costs now, how much more is it gonna cost when we get to construction and all that?
It's a very fair question. I think,
And we don't have COVID, because that was, I will say, in terms of cost as an architect, that killed us
Yeah,
40%. So
Michael, correct me, but usually there is that escalation cost.
Yeah, that's
when
built into the
When we
bid.
looked at this number,
Yeah, we
we
did.
will assume that since it's not an immediate construction.
It is, yeah. So this, the bottom line here, this contractor markups is overhead, profit, insurance, et cetera. So that includes in this estimate that was just for the historic preservation and accessibility scope, going out to starting construction in January 2027. So basically the cost estimator looks at, what the trend line has been for increased costs out to, and, carries that out to X date. And one of the reasons why the MBLC wants to make sure that projects wait until they're off the wait list and have their approved. So this next phase where we're submitting this, they'll do an independent review and say, yes, this meets all of our criteria. And then we'd get the cost estimate with the idea that we're not getting it now. And, it'd be 3 years from now that we'd go out for construction and now our cost estimate is out of date. So that's sort of built into the process is trying to make sure that we're looking forward and not assuming this is today's dollars.
Kate,
So the pie chart on step 2, page 3 of 8 was helpful for me. And I just want to make sure that I'm digesting this properly, that I'm pulling the right information heads. It's if we all want to look, it's towards the beginning. Yeah, yeah.
That one,
So
what's that?
I said 1.5 is 15%.
So we don't, it's been helpful for me to understand that similar to the high school grant process, the reason you don't have cost estimates right now is because you are prohibited from doing that type of work at this phase of the project. It is awkward, I will acknowledge that we are here talking about it the way our meeting schedule aligns with the MBLC process. But that being what it is, it was helpful for me to see that MBLC will fund up to 59% of the whole project. They would fund historical preservation work if that was, they don't care what's in that 60% as long as it's not an excluded project. The other roughly 40% of that, what could possibly be funded by community preservation is historical work, right? We cannot fund new development, and that you have gone through the process of getting as an accurate of an estimate as you could, so that although we don't know what the total pie chart number is, we do have as good a graph as we could get at this stage on what CPC could possibly fund in total. Do I have that right? Okay. So in our hats as just general residents of Great Barrington, it might be good to know what the total price tag is, but in our hats as community preservation members, the only slice of the pie that we will ever have to think about is the historical work on that list, which is projected for future inflation costs. Okay, I wanted to make sure I understood all of those pieces. Okay. And then so if we get off, so the wait list is a chance to get started early, essentially. Okay.
Waitlist, for example, the town that's in front of us, if they have challenges of not getting local funding, even though they are ready to go, if they don't pass their town vote in spring, the ones who are ready, who have already been allocated the grant should get the local funding and town, in the town meeting come spring 2026. If that fails for those community, then we move right up. So hence the.
And so was that, I think that you had mentioned like a 6-month time period. Is that, so like the shortest time period is if we move off of the wait list onto the active list in, say, June, then we have 6 months after that to secure
The
funding?
reason for that approximate 6 months is you need to go in front of the town to get approval.
And so you need to schedule a special meeting and, yeah.
Town meeting, so hence that 6-month timeline. Does that make sense? So in June, if we are told that you're off the wait list,
Mhm.
you're going to miss the spring town meeting. So the next year town meeting, special meeting will be in fall. So between that June to December, if you can bring that local funding, and in June, we will know what percentage MBLC is going to give you a grant. Based on the kind of the design that's submitted, the accessibility requirements. They're going to look at the need factor for every community, and then they will calculate, they will tell you, it's not 59%, it's not like written in stone, it's like, if you saw that chart, it has a percentage. So they will come up, it can be any percentage at that point with the need factor, they will tell you, okay, you are eligible for this % of the grant. And then you have to come up with the local funding, and then as OPM, so we would create a budget for the project. So that would include all your legal fees, your professional fees, and all the other things that were not there, and like program like parking spaces, if you are going to kind of make sure that the building is going to need furniture, so we will come up with a cost estimate once we get a go from NVLC, and then we'll also know. And there's also the sustainability part of it. We don't know what rebates we would get from Mass Save, right? Because we are going to have a historic project, but also we are going to add into this. So those are numbers and exercises that we will be doing between June, hopefully to December. And figuring out how much rebates can we get? What are the sources that we can get some funding additional? So all that funding and what the project is cost, that's when we'll, and then we can go in front of your community in town meeting to say, this is the number that we have, so.
Okay,
Can I just ask you one question?
Yeah.
You kept on saying, we're coming before you for historic preservation. Am I incorrect, or that big part of your job is accessibility also?
That's part of, yeah.
So that is
but
part of
that's not the major set
it's
of
a
funding.
subcategory
It's part
of,
funding here from ours, it's part of our whole list, that's all, I just.
we can
I'm
fund
trying to look-
projects in 3 categories:
Right.
open space, affordable housing, and historic. One of the things we can do under historic is to bring historic buildings into accessible use.
Correct.
Oh,
All right,
Yeah.
Martha, go ahead.
I'm confused. I went on to the Massachusetts Library Board, and they also have archival grants. So, is this library not allowed to have an archival section to it? Seeing it as mass libraries do archival, is it because it was ruled out, or is it not allowed in this building?
Sorry.
Oh, never mind. I had a question. I mean.
Excuse me, just for one more moment. Sharon, what are you doing with the light?
You're.
Are you recording? What are you doing? I beg your pardon?
But I wanted to take a picture of who's talking.
No, I want to know, are you recording the meeting? If you are, you haven't asked for permission to do that. Number two,
Point of order, Chair.
excuse me for just a minute. What? Go
I
ahead.
came in late, so, I'm just looking at who's talking. I wasn't here when you asked the question.
What do you want?
Well, generally, before the start of a meeting, the chair will ask if anyone is recording. You did not do.
No,
that.
I didn't. But the
And
light is
I am recording as well, and there's probably people.
good. I just want to know what the light is. It was distracting to the committee.
I understand that, but you asked if she was recording, but.
I'm
you
just
didn't
asking.
at the start of the meeting.
Yes, you're right, Michelle. I'm sorry.
So back
ahead.
to my question.
Yeah.
So, I think archival right now on the second floor, that's there. That's another thing that we are hoping to take it as along with when we come back on the project, because I think that was not part of the grant program, because it's very library focused for the grant program. I think we have, the architects have that on their list. When we come back for schematics, we are going to review that. What our challenge would be is whatever we are submitting on December 31st will have to stay in the project. We can add anything to it after when we come back, when the grant is approved. And I think the two items that they have not on their list is one is that storage space that's being used on the second floor and the parking. I think these two items, because it's going to need additional work, because that storage on second floor, from what I understand, is you have to figure out the weight of that, because it is on the historic part of the building, whether that particular floor could accommodate that weight. There's a little more study that needs to be done. I mean, to make sure that we are providing the right environment for it. It needs a proper environmentally controlled area. So I think that needs a little more kind of digging deeper into that. And I think that's hot on their list.
That's part of our problem here. That's town storage.
Which, you know,
It's been there for 50 years. And to have it removed without a grant for another building to put it in seems to me.
I don't know if I would say that we have completely.
we haven't,
That hasn't been under consideration, has it?
it has very much has, okay? You're looking at somebody who does this for a living.
I would
okay?
think so.
I have been in breathtakingly beautiful storage. Go in Stockbridge, okay? Great Barrington has to think about this as a whole. We have to think about it as a library. It's definitely part of our work. We don't have it right now figured out.
Right.
It will be part of our scope. I hear you. Believe me, I hear you. I don't want those documents to get ruined. Somebody should go in and catalog the hell out
They
of them.
They're working on it right now.
Okay, boys and girls, calm down. Jeremy, go ahead.
So if it's not in this initial phase and it's eligible, then it would be still eligible for funding, right? Correct.
It is, yes. We can add anything to what we have as a base. This is absolutely library focused, but if we have elements that we want to add to it, it can absolutely happen when we come back with the grant. So that would be our approach right now.
And so I think one of the things that we're having trouble with is that, like historical documents, like we think libraries, that's part of the, that's part of what libraries do.
Yeah.
And so, like the state think that as well, and so, like library focus, so that's what I think we're having trouble understanding, like, is that not part of the library focus?
Again, I don't know the details of what's being stored on that at this point, and I think, we definitely as the.
Oh,
Go ahead, Michael. Go ahead,
Oh, sorry,
Michael.
Deepa. Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think the distinction that the MBLC will draw is whether it's controlled by the library or if it's controlled by another, even if it's a town entity. So that's where they'll say whether or not it's eligible for their funding. So it gets into a little bit of splitting hairs, but it's part of their state regulations.
Well, that's good to know.
We
Jeremy,
will have places for display. And, in the gallery space, for special items to be put up so people can actually see them. And they will be accessible, but again, we will be looking into this, it will not be forgotten.
Good, it won't be on the front lawn.
Jeremy?
thrown out.
Okay, thank you, Martha.
Question. So I have a
There'll be
question.
water on it if the roof leaks.
All right, everybody.
So I have a question about that under the control of the library. So like if materials were like under some sort of like joint town thing, like and the library was part of that, then does that qualify?
Who
It's
you
a good,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, it's a good question. I'm not sure how they would qualify that. I think if we're saying it's library archives, which could be in some places that is historic archives that belong as part of the library's collection, then I think they would say that is eligible. But if I'm not sure how it would have to be navigated if it's a joint thing. It's a question we could ask them for sure.
Pat,
I think it's unfortunate. Well, I'll just say, I commend you, this is a huge project, it's obviously very ambitious. Many parts of it still seem very hypothetical. We're looking at tombstones that have fallen over that people want to set up. I see a roof here that clearly needs to be repaired. Whether you add a team new building to the back has nothing to do with whether that roof needs to be repaired. I think you would have done better with this committee to identify historic preservation that needs to happen now, independent of your long-term plans.
I think the list that we have, accessibility is quite a bit, and I think that there's an elevated cost that is there, but for repairs and all that, the window replacement are all part of that cost that you have in front of you.
We have a list.
What I'm saying is, you may not get off the waiting list for a year. You could have applied for funding from this committee for this year for repairs that need to be made. I think that would have had a much better.
Jeremy, no. Go ahead, Kate.
So Pat, unfortunately, that is not possible. If the town decided, whether funded through CPA or any other thing, to start taking action on that building, they would trigger code that requires upgrades to the whole building. So there is no way to piecemeal the project. And if we were to say, MBLC, thank you very much, but we don't want your money, then we would have to fund 100% of the project instead of 40% and maybe 25%. So that's why that's not a thing.
Okay.
And also just like here, page 30, like that 1.19, sorry, I reached this age.
Be grateful.
This is what they are talking to us in detail is the list of historical stuff that needs addressing on the building. They have not accessibility as part of historic. So page 28, page 30.
It's going to be of the appendix.
Yes. So that page 30 is, I believe, the detail. There is your list, and maybe this would be helpful to talk in more detail of the historical and accessibility work that needs to be done on the library right away. And I'm more concerned that the archival stuff is sitting there under that leaking soffit. Right, like new stairs, restrooms, window restorations, and just the cost savings on running the building alone with double paned windows in it might be worth realizing. Wall cleaning, repointing, cornice and pediment roofing, repairing, trim, casings, restore, but all of those, every one of those verbs in there has to do with historical. Like this is the historical part. So in theory, if the MBLC were to not exist, they could just come to us and ask for this list of stuff, which is essentially what they are doing, because we are not, as this board, not going to look at the other stuff. That is not we as citizens of Barrington are, but we as CPC are not. So there's your list of what needs to be done. And the roof obviously looks urgent.
Steve?
Another question for Chris, just, Chris, since we would fund the historic part of this, and it's a larger project, let's say the whole project is funded, how would we? Would we have to guarantee that our money is being used only for historic?
Absolutely.
Yes. You would probably do that through some sort of restriction or requirement
Right.
or certifications by the architect.
Invoice.
Okay.
You know, the cost estimates might come in with a detailed pay application, those items detailed out, to be paid out of CPA.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, want to make sure it was possible.
I don't know if it's possible, but that is what is.
That would be the game. If you want to get in, you gotta have the right uniform. Jeremy, I'm gonna give everybody else, any other comments, concerns, or issues at this point? Because if not, I'm going to close it and I'm going to allow a minute and a half for citizens if they want to speak to this briefly. Go ahead.
So, so with everything that's in here and that has to be done, is it like you have to have an individual space for that activity? Or can you, like you've pointed out that you have two different spaces, like, can you say then later, okay, we're gonna use this one space for both of those activities? Can you do things like that later? Or does, you know, because you have it laid out in the, like, this is for this is for this.
You mean the room names?
Yeah, and so this is kind of to Steve's thing, like, can the project get any smaller and still be eligible?
Whatever program that we're submitting this month will have to stay when the grant gets up.
That's what I mean, like, is.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. No, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Programming, because it's programming, right? What you're gonna do in a space. And so I'm wondering, like, if you have like multiple programming in a space.
I think that's a great question for a different board, but we are only talking about the historical and accessibility stuff, and that's not changing.
Okay. Any other comments? I have one. My difficulty with this project is that you are asking 8 citizens to start a sled going down a very slippery hill. And we do not have any sense of totality of guidance from the people. I don't care about what the community wants. What I need to understand is what we need, number one, because there's a big difference between needs and wants. And number two, the spaces, some of the stuff that you've talked about, I'm a little concerned about the teens. I'm not seeing them going to the library. I mean, there may be for young kids, but I think the problem is that you're asking 8 of us to make a decision to start this parade to move, when there's just not a whole lot of, we don't know what it's gonna cost. I mean, some guy put in the paper $10 million. I think that's a pipe dream. I think that's low. I don't know. I can't answer it. But what I'm saying is that I have a difficult time saying, yeah, we're gonna fund this. And now you're gonna go to the town and say, okay, so now, Karen Smith, you live on Monument Valley Road. You don't use the Houstonic Library, but you're gonna pay for it. I think that the community that has to pay for it is the one that needs to determine the needs versus the wants. I think that's the basic simplicity. I think you've got your chickens and your ducks arranged. I think you need to flip it. I think you need to get the community to say, you know, we think this is a good idea and great. And then come to CPA, and then that's my opinion as a human being, as a citizen, and as somebody who's lived in this town for 40 years. Now, I do not take away any of the hard work that's been done. I understand. I worked on the monument project 20 years ago, and we finally got it done. So,
Yes, for 20 years.
oh, okay.
Hopefully.
And I'm still breathing. So my point is that it's not to demean any of the work that's been done. But I really think that the way this has been designed, the other thing I do have, who's paying you? You doing this for nothing?
No, I think before we came on board, the grant was blessed by the town for a fee for the architect's time.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
I just wanted to give sort of my take on one part of this, which is that The way that our grant cycle, the MBLC funding cycle works. Here we stand right in December of 25. These grants would not be dispersed until
After July 1st.
July 1st, 26.
Correct.
We also have the option of setting aside funds.
Sort of, yeah.
Right. We also have the option of putting contingencies on funds.
Right, you
If
would get
don't
this money if you jumped over the hoop.
If you've moved up the wait list, if you've.
If you haven't, it's going back into the general fund.
Come back.
That's
next
right.
year. The way that I see it is that if you're getting all green lights, this could happen smoothly. I don't want us to be the first red light. Even if we were to take a vote today and all vote miraculously yes, there are still many, many, many steps that are going to happen, including a comprehensive cost estimate, including presentation to the town at large, including town meeting approval of the entire project and all of its costs. That would be a contingency for releasing CPC funds to go for it. So essentially, we are not putting money we're not gambling here. We're not putting a stack of money at risk. We are being a potential green light in a line of many.
But it
lights.
restricts the access to those funds to be applied to other projects.
Yeah, but like the dead people in the cemetery aren't getting.
I know, they're dying to get in there. I know that. I understand that problem. I understand that.
Correct.
But it may not be that. It may be that we don't get the shades in the Housatonic or Memorial Field. So kids, I mean, that may be what's affected. Go ahead, Steve, and then Jeremy.
Yeah, I think one of the things to look at, one, we have to decide, we're the gatekeepers right now. And as you said, we haven't gotten an understanding of how the townspeople feel as a whole.
Right.
If we vote yes on this, we will get an idea at town meeting how the townspeople feel.
Oh, God, yes.
We can vote up or down on this small part of the project.
That's correct.
So, it's us saying yes to this or us saying yes to this allows the townspeople, and I've said this before on other projects, allows townspeople to give their opinion. If it gets voted down at town meeting, these fine people will have some decisions to make. How can we change what we're doing?
What do we need to do in order to get
What do we
that?
need to do differently? It is a gauge. It is more than a straw poll.
Yeah,
Yes, but it's not a greased pole. Like
Yeah.
careful
real.
with that. Mr. Higa, you got 5, go.
And so, Chris, we could bond this, right? And so we don't even have to really restrict current funds. We can bond it so we restrict future funds, and that's only restricted if it passes funding from.
You have to set up contingencies going out the window if you're gonna bond it going down the line. You have to, yeah.
And I understand, but like this money's not gonna go anywhere unless the town approves the overall funding anyway, because if they approve this and then they knock it down and they don't vote for the total funding, then this money all comes back anyway. And so,
That's one way to look at it. Go ahead. Rich, go ahead.
If
Two more.
we're talking about bonding, how would we know how much of our funds in this particular year and in the next few years or the period that we decide to go for a bond, how would we know how much money will be affecting how much we can apply to other projects
Right.
this year? That's really the question. I just don't know how to answer that without knowing how much the bond would cost initially, sort of a general
Right.
guidelines on bonding, and I'm not sure how we would figure that
We
out.
would have all that information before we had to vote on it.
All right, Steve, and then I
I
want,
don't think we've asked.
No, but it is
Yeah.
knowable. We have bonded things before as. a group,
And I think
yes.
for this year, Rich, I think the money's not being used this year, clearly by their timeline. Either 27, 29, or 30. So this year,
obviously, we won't go out on a bond until we're coming to a certain
That-
point.
There are a
So
lot more
yeah.
steps that have to have hit right before that
Is
happens.
Is the thought that even if we approved this, that it won't affect the bottom line of anything we do this year?
Chris, how's that work?
It'll be
I
finite.
would think it
Not
was
necessarily.
Well,
committed.
the application is put to you is asking something slightly different. It's not necessarily asking for a bond, it's asking for a certain amount of money, possibly this year, next year, to be put aside to defray the future total project costs. So 1.5 million over several years, I think they're
It's just
asking
3 to 5 years.
over 3 to 5 years. It doesn't,
So it's not specifically asking for us to bond it.
correct.
Right, so that's
Take-
not bonding, that's
correct.
just,
Take-
yeah,
Excuse me.
sorry.
So it would be up to this committee to make a recommendation on how to finance it, and then up to town meeting to decide whether we do it in, 2 or 3 tranches of cash money from the CPA or a 20-year bond. So that's really up to this committee to decide if you move forward. You could recommend, let's spend a certain percentage of the CPA money this year on the projects before you. And let's park another X amount in our historic reserves for next year when Ramsdale's ready. Or you could say, let's spend everything this year on the applications in front of us. And then we'll support a bond next year for the entire Ramsdale project. So,
Or we could we ask for general costs if we went out to bond a particular lengths of bonds? So that we could understand.
Well, we can-
Were we to do that?
we can run those
Could
numbers
we
pretty
have
easily.
Before our.
A
next
20-year
meeting?
bond at 4%, which is probably high, is $110,000 per year for 20 years.
And then there's an initial cost for the bond as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Yeah, that's wrapped in with our other town bonding, so it's marginal, but that's the scope of a $1.5 million ask for 20 years at 4%. The term makes more difference than the.
Right.
Than the
Then the
rate
number,
does.
right?
But that's the amount.
It
if you want
helps,
the bond.
it helps me get an idea.
So first, just so I understand again the process, could we vote to approve this? Recommending it be bonded and contingent on 2 positive votes from the town, one on the CPC and one on the entire project. And therefore not spend any money until both of those things happen.
Both of those criterias are met.
I think that is possible, yes.
Interesting. Okay, now,
One
one more and that's it.
does
You could say, and let's put some of the money aside now
That's
to
true.
offset the total cost of bond.
But doesn't the town have to vote to accept the money from Massachusetts as a separate,
There's gotta be 2 votes
right?
for
Three.
this at least.
This, yeah, there's 4 altogether. If you think about yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, whatever it is, there's gonna be a point where we have to vote to accept the project, we as a town. I mean, that's just a fact. I don't know how that's done, if that's done at the town meeting or through a ballot, but it's done.
Okay. Citizen speak. You get, all right, you first, Mr. Fick.
I don't mind.
Okay, great. There's 5 hands going up. Mr. Fick, Ruby, the gentleman in front, and then you, and you.
You've been in line.
What's in line?
20 seconds. 20 seconds.
Go, bud.
What's your name?
Why are you, my name is Malcolm Fick, I live on Maplewood Avenue in Great Barrington. And I don't know why you guys are even considering this. They said that you have to go to a town meeting 6 months after approval. Why are they coming to CPA for money? Why not wait until the town meeting after the project gets approved by the state? And get the money there?
Rhetorical question asked. Thank you. Next. Who is next? Ruby? And
Michael, can you put up the slide with the time?
The timeline, I think she's referring to.
While he's doing that, I just want to answer a question about doubling the space. The space that is including the upstairs, the downstairs, the basement, and including the basement that is excavated is 10,934 square feet, okay? So obviously the basement is not being used, the second floor is not being used. So we are heating and cooling all three of these spaces, but we're only using part of it. When we expand, what is in addition to what we're doing now, it is 5,994 square feet. So we're not doubling it. We're making use of the existing space and we're only adding a portion of it. So that's one thing I want to correct. So doubling it doesn't make sense.
Just for the record, I asked the question whether it was doubling and I never got an answer.
Yes, so this is the actual answer.
He's got the numbers.
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay.
Great,
That's okay.
30 seconds, go ahead, Ruben.
Number two is that MBLC, so we're here right now, right?
Could you
So-
say where you are? Cause the people.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're at the end of 2025.
Meeting,
At the meeting.
we're at the meeting, right here.
What?
Okay,
Sent on the TV.
and our town meeting comes in May, right? So what happens is that if we get off the wait listed, we will go to the town meeting in the fall, right? The town has to approve two things. Number one, that they agree with the cost of the plan. And having said that, we have to be able to foot the total cost of the plan. We're not gonna say, we're just gonna do the town part and MBLC will do the rest. We have to assure MBLC that we will be able to foot the whole project.
All 10 million.
Does that make sense?
The whole 10 or 12 or 8 or 6 or whatever it is.
Whatever it is.
Great, thank you. Anything else?
And number two is that we have to approve that we will accept MBLC grant and use it. So there are two
Right.
votes that needs to happen here. So from here, and then we have to sign the contract. It has to go back to the state. And then the state has to approve it before April 30th. Which means we only have a short period of time to say, we actually have the funding and we can actually sign on the dotted line. So you have to be prepared. You can't just last minute say, where's the funding gonna come from?
Right.
We got
And
that.
that is to answer the question, why we're before you right now.
Yeah. Madam, stand up, let her rip, go.
Hi, Donna Jacobs, 260 Park Street. I live on the border of Great Barrington and Housatonic villages. And I travel north to Housatonic to avoid the congestion in center of Great Barrington. And I've been here only 10 years and I've seen the congestion multiply in those 10 years. It means that the town is growing. I encouraged that Price Chopper gets a liquor license so they would expand the store because the town is growing. The population is increasing. I think of the future. I think of 20 years from now. I think about the kids who are growing up here and what are they going to be looking at? And what are they going to be thinking about this decision that we make this year in this day? And I think that this committee has an opportunity to accept a project that the town ultimately, they're not going to let you decide on your own, but to support or give an endorsement by saying, yes, the community, the preservation committee is willing and wanting to preserve the historic value of the town, a gem of a building for the future of a growing, I hate to say metropolis, but it's a municipality that pretty soon, with all the affordable housing, we might have the numbers to qualify for a city and we'll need a mayor.
Okay,
But do you see the point?
Yeah.
It's and it's an opportunity, and you know what? It's a terrible sense of responsibility, but at the end of the day, you all are not deciding, the town is deciding.
I'll take my own opinion on that. Sir, please, you're up.
Okay, well, I won't go all the way over there then. I'm going to pick those up. Thermal Falls, 325 North Plain Road, Housatonic. And I was encouraged as a Housatonic resident to hear Madam Chair, over there at a previous meeting saying, we want to redo Houstonic. And the chair wants Houstonic to listen to their support. That's a very encouraging statement. And part of that has to be well, you may laugh, but that's actually what you said. It was on record.
Oh, I'm so
Rathsdale
thrilled,
has
Trevor.
7,500 patron visits over the last 12 months. Apart from Mason, I can't think of any other public institution in Great Barrington that has that frequency of visits
What?
and can claim such
Pressure.
through traffic. So a lot has been said by these ladies very elegantly over here, but there is a factor that the town needs to be able to unlock this grant, just as Ruby has just outlined. Goes further than that, because we will want to get in private donations to help with this project. And that's why the Great Barrington Library Fund was set up as a 5013C at the cost of the people on the board. We've done that, but to go out and get private donations of the size that we're looking for, and it is possible. I've seen that done in Lennox. I think we can do that quite easily in Great Barrington. We need commitment from the town that they're going to actually stand behind that. And part of this is the CPC, because what you need to do is to basically say this is an historic building, which it clearly is. It needs to be renovated, and we're going to stand behind this. I want to say one more thing to Mr. Fick's comment there, and also Mrs. Fick's comment earlier. The point about the availability and the cost of actually doing this renovation, if you're going to store your records in a building that is actually in the process of deteriorating and falling down, you're going to have to look at a way of actually funding the cost to actually store your documents or move them somewhere else. What we're looking for is to get outside funding for a large part of this project to actually create an environment that we should be able to talk to the historical committee about in terms of storing some of that those archives. So there are a lot of factors here that, to my mind, really tick the box of what the CPC is set up to do. So thank you for your.
Well, just as a sidebar, before we go any further, I will tell you that one of the things that's going on is the new town manager's budget will be coming out, capital budget will be coming out the 15th of January. And the other thing that's happening is we've been requested by the town clerk. We have a whole program now that needs to be looked at. Things are changing in the sense of what we're gonna do about all the archival documents going back to 1727 or something like that. So there's a whole issue with archival, whether it be the Historical Society, whether it be town records. So, we may need to build a, climate controlled warehouse for just that stuff all in total. So who knows? I mean, we've got a lot of things that are going, a lot of factors going in.
But we do look forward to your report, Houstonic, that you've promised.
I'm glad you're having a good day with this. Thank you, Rich. Yes, Sharon, salute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I actually am happily following right on from what you just said, Karen. We found over the past 6 to 8 months that the archives in Great Barrington some of them are controlled by the clerk, some of them by the Historic Commission, the library has some, and what we have been interested in is all working together to find a solution, because right now we don't have control over our history. So we're looking forward to this as an opportunity. And one of the things I have on my list to do is to go to the Stockbridge Library, which is called the Stockbridge Library and Archives, and understand what responsibilities the town has invested in that institution and how it relates to the clerk's office, to town committees. So we have some models out there, and we're looking forward to it moving forward. And I really just wanted to say that because I wasn't sure that Jeremy's questions and Martha's questions had been quite wrapped up yet. So I just really did want to link us and these issues together. So thank you.
Karen Gregory. You follow her, okay?
Karen Gregory, Hollenbeck Avenue. Reading the CPA bylaws, or also known as the CPA plan, I note that one of the major determinants for the committee is to have a high priority of the town project. This is like the biggest town project I've ever seen. The second is that those who are eligible for the capital investment plan would be a natural fit for CPA grant. This is a project that fits that. The third thing is a major part is public benefit. We give, you know, I'm not saying that any of the mausoleum projects or anything, you know, aren't good projects. They're all Barrington is full of history. But in terms of public benefit, as Trevor said, there's a lot of users and a lot of geography involved that we could get a lot of availability on. And last is, you know, there was this recent session on bonds, you know, how much could we borrow? To me, that anything that the grant, the CPA grant gives to this project will mitigate what borrowing. You know, a $1.5 million over 5 years is $300,000 a year, or over 3 years, $500,000 a year. We've given $500,000 from, you know, various places, and we don't have to bond them. So all we're asking is to sequester that amount of money so that when our time comes up, we have it earmarked. So, you know, any amount further than that will, we don't know the cost, but you know, any amount that the Great Barrington Library Fund raises for the CPA grants is going to reduce the town debt and obligations. So I really wish you would look at it from that kind of point of view and support the largest project we've had that meets those criteria. Thank you.
Young lady.
Hi, my name is Sarah Parker. I live on Cottage Street in Housatonic, and I also serve as chair of the Housatonic Improvement Committee. I'm here tonight both as a neighbor and as someone who spent this year listening closely to what people in the village say that they need in order to thrive, and I wanted to provide some perspective on those voices as you consider moving this application forward. The Ramsdale Library has always been one of the places that holds Housatonic together. You feel it when you walk inside. It's a mix of beauty, usefulness, and history that tells showing up there was meant to be easy and welcoming. Built in 1908, the library was a public gift grounded in the belief that learning and access should belong to everyone, and that belief really still matters. This past August, the Housatonic Improvement Committee hosted a public visioning session with 50 residents. We asked simple questions. What's missing? What makes you proud? And what success would look like 5 years from now? Again and again, people named the Ramsdale not as a luxury, but as a civic anchor, a place to gather, a place that works across generations, a place worth investing in because it already brings people together. And people were also clear-eyed. They talk about basic needs first, clean water, safe infrastructure, accessible public spaces, and about the importance of investing wisely in what's already working. The Ramsdale sits right at that intersection. A town this size doesn't thrive by centralizing everything in one place. Distributed civic spaces like the Ramsdale make access real, not theoretical, especially for villages that sit outside downtown Great Barrington. Housatonic is a village with its own geography, daily rhythms, and access needs. For many residents, especially kids, elders, people without cars, the library in the village isn't a convenience, it's essential infrastructure. From both a personal and civic perspective, it's clear that the building itself is asking for real care. Its needs aren't cosmetic. The structure, systems, and accessibility are interconnected, and they can't be addressed responsibly in isolation. That's why we're supporting the request for the CPA grant. It's not a promise of a final outcome or a final cost. It's a commitment to a careful phased process, one grounded in community input, transparency, and due diligence before any larger decisions are made. We've taken this approach before as a town and it's worked. And from where I sit as a neighbor and as the chair of Housatonic Improvement Committee, this is exactly the kind of thoughtful investment that honors both the people who live in Housatonic and the broader community that supports it. Thank you.
Okay. Any comments? Anybody else? I'll take a motion.
So do you want, was that?
That's it. I don't see any other,
Make a
barn
motion to
burning.
adjourn.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor? Aye, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.